Hey guys, what's going on? MVP here, bringing you guys the first round of the NES Season 1 playoffs, and your Detroit Darkrais are facing off against the Aston Charizards, coached by the Mad Danny. I am coming in as the 4th seed with a 10-5 record. He's coming in as the 5th seed with a 9-6 record. So a very even playing field between us two. Should be a very good battle. And anyways, with that, let's get right into it. So, first off, I'm going to talk about the lead real quick. After watching a few matches of his most common lead was Sableye, but not by much. And myself, I had the same mindset for myself as last week. I wanted to get some offensive pressure right off the bat. Hopefully KO some threats like this Sableye. So like I brought Dazzling Gleam to counter the Sableye, because if I let this Sableye survive for too long in the battle, then it might be able to stall out some of my Pokemon. In the end, it would not end well for me. So obviously he goes for the Mega Evolution, I go for Dazzling Gleam, get a nice chunk out of his health. He goes for the Foul Play. So at this point, I'm thinking probably just go for another Dazzling Gleam. I cannot risk using like a Psychic. He gets the immunity and KOs me, so I go for another Dazzling Gleam here. But I want to say, at least for my health, I ran 0 IVs, Timid Nature, so I actually had my min health, and that actually allowed me to survive the Foul Play, so it allows me to get this move off. But obviously he switches in the Rotom, wants to preserve that. I didn't feel like taking the Psychic risk on the Sableye. That could have been some good damage on the Rotom, but it is not. So he shows the hidden power. So I'm thinking it is an offensive set at this point. He does not show any choiced items because he used Thunder Wave there. He did not bring a Hydreigon, so I expected the Rotom to be choiced, but that was not the case, so maybe the Flygon was choice. We'll get into that later. But here I go for the Tri-Attack, just get some good damage off, and he brings in his Ferrothorn, which I was expecting to be my Porygon 2 counter this week, and I pick up a burn, which was kind of lucky for me, you know, get some chip damage, have that health. So I go for a Hidden Power Fire, which was my counter to Ferrothorn, because I was expecting Ferrothorn to counter my Porygon 2, but he had the Oka Berry, which was good on his part. So that only did 20%, but he got his Stealth Rocks up, which actually eliminates my Zelf. So that is not too good. So now, I was expecting him to switch his Ferrothorn out, expecting another HP Fire. So like he thought like, oh, he's gonna like KO me with HP Fire, I should probably switch out. So I decided to switch into a Zelf, so that I know what he switches into, so that I may get an advantage on the next switch in. But he stays in, so I just get rid of my Zelf right there. So I find this to be a good turn to bring in my Mega Altaria, because I speed, so I can get a free Mega and get off a Flamethrower to pick up the KO. Okay, Ferrothorn's out of the way. First KO. So now he brings in his Metagross. I don't know. I just felt like going for the Flamethrower. I don't really know how to elaborate on that play. All my thoughts on how to justify whether it was wrong or right, I can't seem to. I know he could have agility'd there if I switched or something, but I don't know. I just went for the Flamethrower to get some good damage on. He picks up the KO. I don't know if Mega Altaria would be useful later in the match at all, but that's just what happens. So anyways, I decided to switch on the Garchomp, just using the pick up the KO on the Metagross. He sacks it off. I just pick it up with the Fire Fang. He brings in Gyarados to get the Intimidate off, but I really don't care about Intimidates a whole lot, unless it's like a poor matchup for me, like I don't have anything that can do anything. But I have the Rock Slide, which could go for a flinch and is super effective, so I kind of make up for it a little. But he gets a substitute off, so I go for another Rock Slide to break that substitute, because I know at least does 25%. He goes for a Waterfall. He takes Rough Skin, which is good on my part. 30% was not too bad of damage taken there. I go for another Rock Slide on this Flygon. He actually pulls a double switch into the Gyarados to get a double drop on me, so I go for the Dragon Claw this turn to hurt the Flygon, but I got the critical hit on the Gyarados to pick up the KO, which was actually kind of nice for me. So I'm in a 4v3 at this point. It's looking very nice for me. He brings in the Sableye. I'm at half attack, so I was expecting for him to get a free recover off, so I needed the switch out anyways. But he actually pulls a double switch, I guess you could say, into the Rotom. Now I bring in my Emboar. Now I was expecting this Rotom to be an offensive set, you know, like speed and special attack, because it showed off the hidden power so far, and it showed off Volt Switch. So Emboar, Choice Scarf, I'm expecting to be faster because I know he is not choiced of any kind. So I go for a Head Smash because it's super effective damage. but he lives on 2%. Turns out that this Rotom was full HP, full defense, bold nature, and doing some calcs, Head Smash, Reckless, Jolly Nature Emboar could only have a 18.8% chance of KOing from full health, which was kind of devastating for me. Emboar would have just been so nice to have for the rest of this battle, and unfortunately he gets T-waved here, so his value just drops immediately, being the last to go. He goes for the Pain Split. I go for another Head Smash, but I get paralyzed, so he still hangs on to his Rotom. That was just poor luck for me. And here he just goes for the Volt Switch and picks up the KO, because I know Emboar is just done at this point. At this point, he goes into his Flygon. And I figure, okay, this Flygon is probably going to be physical, so I send out my Drapion to counter it. So I take Stealth Rock's damage. I go down to about 88%. Now, I was expecting this thing to be choice of some kind, Band or Scarf. I was expecting Scarf because when he brings Hydreigon, he typically runs Scarf Hydreigon, and my thought was I usually don't run a Scarf too often, so if he runs at least one Scarf on something, he's like guaranteed outspeeds on my team. But he goes for the Earthquake and picks up the KO on my Drapion, which actually surprised me a lot. So after doing some calcs, I find out that this Flygon was actually banded, choice banded, because if he was Adamant or Jarly Scarfed, then he could not KO me from 88%. If he was Jolly Banded, he had a 66% chance to KO me. If he was Adamant Banded, he KO'd me. So I didn't run calcs for that. I should have, because then that would have influenced my decision on this move. So I had to choose between Porygon 2 and Garchomp. Now I decided to go into Porygon 2 because I feared that if he was faster than my Garchomp, because I ran an Adamant Garchomp, but if he was Scarfed, this is why I should have done the damage calcs in the battle. If he was Scarfed, he would have outspent my Garchomp and probably just, well, if he was Scarfed, he would have used Earthquake again. The more takes, this is like the third or fourth take I'm doing this, and the more I'm going through these plays, the more I'm realizing how dumb this is, how dumb I was. I should have gone in the Garchomp. Garchomp was the absolute 100% correct play in this situation. If I go in the Garchomp, I can use Dragon Claw. That would either put Rotom Heat to near death, that would KO Sableye, and that would KO the Flygon. If I did KO the Flygon, he would bring in Sableye, which I would KO. He would bring in Rotom, I use Rock Slide, I KO. It just didn't matter. Garchomp would sweep him here. But I made the mistake. I did not think about what item he had. I did not think about the correct speed. I did not think about the attack he used. He's Earthquake. My Garchomp probably could have lived like an Adamant Scarfed Earthquake. He probably could have lived the Earthquake. But if he outsped me, I probably could have lived and then get off a Dragon Claw. But I go into my Porygon 2, which was the worst mistake of this battle, I think. So here, he switches out into his Rotom. I go for Recover, which was also probably a bad play in hindsight now. Should have gone for a Tri-Beam, which would have probably KO'd the Rotom, because as you see here, he goes for a Pain Split to get back more health, and I go for the Tri-Attack, which does about 41%. Obviously, when he switched in, he was 37, so I would have picked up the KO. That would have helped me a lot in this battle. So he goes for Thunder Wave to get the paralyzed chance on my Porygon 2. I go for another Tri-Attack, almost kills him. He goes for a Volt Switch to switch out. He gets me down to about 49%. I actually predicted this pretty well. I actually predicted him to switch out here after seeing his moveset. I think it was Hidden Power, Thunder Wave, Pain Split, and Hidden Power. He didn't have any offense to tackle my Porygon 2, so I was expecting a switch. If he switched into the Flygon, that'd be oh well, but I expected him to switch into the Sableye, so I went for the Thunderbolt, which was a good play, but unfortunately did not KO. If that KO'd, I could have won. It's like there's a mix of damage rolls and bad plays on my part. It could have all been avoided if I switched in the Garchomp instead of Porygon 2 against the Flygon. because in the end it does turn out that my Garchomp is faster than the Flygon. So here I'm slower and I have no offense against the Sableye, so I gotta go into Garchomp, use a Rock Slide, pray for a flinch. I don't get it. A Dragon Claw at 35% would have KO'd, but obviously no flinch again. He gets the Will-O-Wisp. That basically sealed the deal for him. And obviously he just heals the health. He can just stall me out here. But he goes into Jet, his Flygon. I go for Rock Slide, just trying to get some more flinches. But here I go for the Dragon Claw. Obviously revealing I'm faster. Obviously 100% revealing that he is banded. He gets an Outrage KO, and obviously my Porygon 2 way too weak to survive a banded Outrage. It was adamant as well. So GG's to Mad Danny and the Aston Charizards. Very well played by him. I felt I played well for most of the match until that one switch. Damage rules really hurt me too. Seeing Emboar just not KO the Rotom just hurt me a little on the inside. I'm like, what? No way a Rotom could ever survive that, but it is possible on spreads. If I ran like a Banded or an Adamant Emboar, I could have actually had a better chance at KOing that Rotom, but I did not. So anyways, guys, that is done from us. The Detroit Darkrais have been eliminated in round 1 of the NES Season 1 playoffs, but there is more to come in the off season. Once the playoffs are finished, we will have an 8-week season of Monotype before we kick off Season 2. We want to wait on Season 2 until Sun and Moon comes out, because if we started Season 2 right away after Season 1, it'd be about a month before Sun and Moon releases, and so we would be playing with like the ORAS metagame like 2 or 3 months into Sun and Moon, and we don't want to do that. We want to kind of start Season 2 off with Sun and Moon, which would actually be really interesting. It'll be very early in the life cycle of the meta, and we don't know how like any of that will play out, so it'll be definitely interesting to see when that comes around. But anyways, guys, I will be creating a season review video soon, within a week or two. Maybe after the championship, I'll get back with you guys, talk about how the playoffs ended up and how this team has done, what the Pokemon have done for me, and what I like, what I didn't like, and changes that I can make to better myself as a battler. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the battles, hope you enjoyed the season. I'll see you around for the review and the Mono-type season coming up. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and this has been your Detroit Darkrais.